How about that? Okay. Well, good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. We'll get started. Um, let's first begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Missoula County acknowledges that this event in the Sophie Moise Room takes place on the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. We have a public announcement real quick here.
Yeah, hi everybody. If you're joining this meeting virtually today, I'm just going to quickly throw up instructions to turn on closed captioning in Microsoft Teams. And if you're in the room, there are captions at the bottom of the screen. We ask that all speakers today please remember to speak slowly and clearly during the meeting. This will help with the accuracy of the closed captioning. There will be multiple chances during the meeting for public comment. If you're attending virtually using Teams, we ask that you use the raise hand feature during those times if you'd like to speak. And if you're calling in on the phone, you can hit *6 on your keypad to raise your hand. If you have any questions or concerns, please find me during the meeting. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Violet. Is there any public comments on items not on the agenda? Don't see any online, don't see any hands up. Okay, our current claims list received as of November 21st, 2022 to November 28th, 2022 by the Commissioner's Office totals $3,135,416.93. We have a few hearings today. We're going to switch it up. Item number B, letter B rather, Creighton major subdivision with Tim Worley is going to go first, and then we're going to get to the good stuff.
Thanks, Commissioners. I'm Tim Worley. I'm Senior Planner with Planning, Development, and Sustainability. I just have a really short presentation here for Creighton Subdivision, which is a major subdivision in the Target Range neighborhood. The proposal comes from Creighton Appraisal PC, and Montana Northwest Company is representing Creighton Appraisal. The proposal again is for an 8-lot major subdivision, and this comes to you today, Commissioners, as a request for a further continuance as Montana Northwest is gathering information about Clark Fork River, particularly the erosion hazard along the northwestern edge of this subdivision, which was a key factor in the findings at Planning Board. And Ken Jenkins from Montana Northwest requests that the hearing be continued to April 27th of 2023. So we would recommend, Commissioners, that you take public comment today if there is any, and then move to continue the hearing to April 27th, and that should read 2023.
Thanks so much, Tim. Is there any public comment on this subdivision, or this extension rather? Okay, we don't see or hear anything.
I would move that we continue the public hearing until April 27, 2023.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Bryce Christians. Oh, thanks so much, Tim. And actually, I'm sorry, can we move this a little off to the side? Because
All right.
All right.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is both an honor and a pleasure to present with you a resolution this afternoon to name our new facility, Building 42 at the Missoula County Fairgrounds, in honor of Missoula County's longest serving public servant, Jerry Marks. The Gerald W. Marks Exploration Center in Rocky Mountain Gardens will be the premier center for scientific education and community-centered learning in the Rocky Mountain West. Science-based programming and community development have always been dear to Jerry's heart. And there are many people here today that are excited to speak to the influence that Jerry has had on their lives and on our community. I think it's important to recognize that they represent only a fraction of those that Jerry has helped over his 53-year career, and that is 53 years and going. I can also speak to that personally. During my short 20-year career, Jerry has been a mentor, a ready and willing partner in countless problem-solving sessions, and an important advisor to some of my most successful projects and programs. I think more importantly, Jerry has also been there for me when those projects have failed, and he has helped teach me to never be afraid to try. I know many of the folks in this room today would also share that same sentiment. All of that and Jerry's insistence that everyone deserves an equal place at the table has led to a track record of long-standing solutions to needs that have been identified in our community. And this exciting public-private partnership between Missoula County, the Missoula Conservation District, and the Missoula Butterfly House and Insectarium is just the latest example of his outstanding legacy. Dedicating this facility in Jerry's name is the least that we can do to honor the positive impact that Jerry has had on so many people's lives, on our community as a whole, and on future generations to come. So with your permission, I think there is a fairly lengthy line here of folks that would like to provide public comment in support of this resolution, and I'd like to pass the mic to them.
Thanks so much, Bryce. Fantastic. You are invited to the mic. Go ahead, Andy.
I just wanted to make sure I was first.
Okay,
This way?
that works. That works.
Depends what side you want us to see it. I gotta see the reaction on some of these people's faces.
Just you can carry the mic with you, and then you can
yeah.
move around
Alright.
the pillar.
Okay, my name's Andy Hayes. Maybe some of you know me here. I was on the Open Lands Committee forever and know Anita pretty good from that. But the story, I got to just tell a story because I have a black lab dog that I walk a lot, and I've been thinking about this. And I went, God, see if I can tell this story as good as it was. Okay, so when I was like 15 or 16, I was in 4-H, really active. My mom was a 4-H leader, and we were both active. I was president of the club, and I don't know, like 1968 or 9. There was an extension service guy we dealt with, and I can even remember his name, Thad Wojciechowski, if I'm saying it right. Jerry would know. Well, he moved on somewhere, and we got a new guy came in. And my mom and I went down to some little business and talked to him for a while, and we got in the car to drive home, and I said to my mom, well, what do you think of the new guy? And she said, well, he's awful smart, and he's awful young, and I don't know if he's going to last.
Come on up.
I'm going to be a little bit more formal because I'm not as comfortable speaking as my fellow board member there. My name is Pat Sweeney. I live in the 9 Mile, and I'm a member of the Weed District Board. I've known Jerry for only a small portion of his long career, but I've always been impressed with his style and his leadership. Over the years, I have interacted with many managers of different agencies and organizations, and Jerry stands out as being one of the best I have had the pleasure to work with. Jerry stands out as an outstanding manager in multiple respects. First of all, he is definitely passionate about his work, and he leads by example. He shows up everywhere to attend meetings and training with boundless energy. He is approachable to everyone, treats people well, and is an excellent mentor that attracts good people. It shows through his staff which does excellent work using creative solutions, problem solving, innovation, and treat each other like family. The people that I work with on the board, they treat each other like family. They really do. Jerry has dedicated his life and career to making Missoula City, Missoula County, the great state of Montana, and beyond by furthering good land stewardship and good relationships. I am extremely happy that the commissioners and the supporters are recognizing Jerry for his accomplishments.
Thanks, Pat.
It is kind of awkward when the person we should be speaking to is behind us, but so I'll
Feel free to
I'll
stand to the
get
side.
sideways here. My name's Sean Klaus. I'm a professor at the University of Montana, and my family has Pink Grizzly in town. I have known Jerry, I don't even know how many years. I'm 65 and he's older than me. But I did meet him in as a 4-H'er. He had a vision for a facility to be a permanent home for Extension and the Weed District. In my lifetime, the Extension office was in this building, and then it moved to the corner of Spruce and Ryman, and now they're out on Santa Fe Court. And they've done great work, wherever they landed. His never say die attitude was really critical in pulling this vision off. He worked tirelessly for decades to make this thing happen. Yeah. And to really move this vision forward and to really make the Rocky Mountain Garden Center a reality. It is fitting and it's the right thing to do to name this building in his honor. He is a great role model for what public servants and what Extension's agents should be. It's been an honor for me to learn from him, to work with him, and to know him. Thank you very much, Jerry Marks.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey everyone, I'm Glenn Marangelo, the development director for the Missoula Butterfly House and Insectarium. And I don't even know what to say about Jerry. I mean, I haven't known him as long as the majority of the people probably in this room, but it just goes back to a meeting that we had, and I can't even remember the real reason we were meeting that day, but Jerry, Bryce, Jen, our executive director, and I were sitting down at a meeting. And you could always tell when Jerry's got a little glimmer in his eye. And this was back in probably 2018. And our organization was in a period where we knew a big change was coming up. We either had to move out of the space that we were in with the Missoula Insectarium or reach for something bigger. And Jerry just pretty much sat there and said, we've got these plans coming together to build a new facility out at the fairgrounds. So this would be a great thing to do together. Why don't we just build a bigger building? And pretty much not quite as simply as that, but it all came together. And we are forever indebted to Jerry for just expressing that vision and that offer to join the county in this incredible building. And we're honored to be in a building that will be named after him.
Thanks, Glenn.
My name is Louis Vero. I'm up Blackfoot. And I offer thanks today to Jerry for his helpful direction at appropriate times for my existence up at Blackfoot Valley.
Ooh, a little closer to the mic, Dad.
Pardon me?
Yeah. Just you close to the mic.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Anyway, up the Blackfoot Valley where recreation and agriculture meet and are compatible with each other most of the time. The thank you I give will be in the form of an essay written in 1899 by Elbert Hubbard, an American author and philosopher. He wrote on the value of individual initiative and being conscientious in work. His primary example is a version of a daring escapade performed by an American soldier, First Lieutenant Andrew S. Rowan, just prior to the Spanish-American War. The essay describes Rowan carrying a message from U.S. President William McKinley to General Calixto Garcia, a leader of the Cuban insurgents somewhere in the mountains of Cuba. No one knows where, quotes. The essay contrasts Rowan's self-driven effort against the imbecility of the average man and the inability or unwillingness to concentrate on a thing and do it. The essayist Hubbard's point he wished to make was this: McKinley gave Rowan a letter to be delivered to Garcia. Rowan took the letter and did not ask, where's he at? By the eternal, there is a man whose form should be cast in deathless bronze and the statue placed in every college of the land. It is not book learning that young men need, nor instructions about this and that, but a stiffening of the vertebra, which will cause them to be loyal to a trust, to act promptly, concentrate their energies, do the thing, carry a message to Garcia. So to you, Jerry, again, thanks for carrying the message.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Emily Brock. I'm the Director of the Missoula County Fairgrounds. A little bit of housekeeping. I just wanted to let you know that we do have a naming recognition policy at the fairgrounds, and this does fall within that policy. We also have design guidelines and standards, and this falls within the design guidelines and standards as well. And I just wanted to say how nice it is to be here today celebrating Jerry, because we've had a little bit of a setback in the past month from the GEO bond not going through, and our stakeholders are a little sad about that. But Jerry reminds us with his stick-to-itiveness that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and he brings courage and true north to those folks who can see how long, he's been working at it, and help them remember that their piece and their time will come as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Sophie Moise? Jean?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Jean Curtis. And I am tickled. When I saw the building at the fairgrounds this summer, when I went to the fair, it was like, oh gosh, this has to be named after Jerry. Well, luckily other people had already been working on that idea, but I'm glad to be here and support that. Everybody has said all the things that I agree with. He just doesn't give up. And he has good ideas, and he brings people together. And I can't wait to see his name on this building.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Radley Watkins with the Missoula Conservation District. I'm the resource conservationist, and I'm relatively new to knowing Jerry, only 2 years, but apparently our relationship goes really deep. And at one point, 20-something years ago, Jerry was serving as the secretary for the Missoula Conservation District. So a lot of the supervisors just expressed to me how grateful they were for all the work Jerry's done, all the vision that he's had over these years. And, you know, we're honored to be brought into this new building, into the Gerald W. Marks Exploration Center building. And I thank you so much, Jerry, for bringing us into that conservation family. It's going to deepen the ability for us to have one-stop conservation shopping here in Missoula County. So thank you so much, and congratulations, Jerry, and please support the resolution. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rad. Anyone else in Sophie Moise? Okay, we'll move. Oh.
Hi. Hi, if we dialed in, can we say something?
There's someone on line 2, one that wants.
Okay, sorry, Jerry speaking, and then
Okay.
we'll move to online and on the phone.
All right, does this come through a little better?
Great.
Yes. Well, anyway, so many faces I recognize, and I realize, and you guys are putting this together, and I didn't have a clue. So there's many times that they want to put a statue of me out there, and I said, no, this really belongs to the people. And it's my belief. But anyway, thanks to everybody for this. This is an honor.
It's not over, Jerry. We still have some folks on the phone and online. So- I'm sorry, there's
Jerry
a,
Marks.
yes, speaker in line 2.
Yes, hello, Jerry Marks at Celestine.
Uh,
Congratulations. That is the best thing I've heard in a long time. Wonderful honor to you, and you certainly have spent a lot of time working on that project, and I don't think anybody else could have been as tenacious as you were. Anyway, wonderful honor. I want to tell you it's way warmer down here in southern New Mexico than it is in Montana. So anytime you want to come visit, now that your big project's done, come on down. But congratulations.
Thanks, Celestine. And Violet, I can't see who else is online, but I know Commissioner Josh Slotnick, who's not with us today, has a video that he'd like to share. Pull that up. And then I have also a note from Lan Lindberg. Look at this. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a Marxist. I'm a Jerry Marxist. Jerry, I'm really sorry I couldn't be here with you on this super big day. I'm out of town, and I appreciate that I could offer you this congratulations and thanks via video. You have set a high bar for decades and decades around collaboration, working with community, bringing other people along. You set a tone and a way of being for all of us to follow, and naming this building for you is a small gesture, not enough. And we're so glad that we're able to do it. So thanks a bunch, Jerry, and congratulations on this big day. And I look forward to standing next to you when you cut the ribbon.
Anyone else online? Or on the phone? I have a letter here to read from Lan Lindberg of Greeno. I suppose I started harassing Jerry Marks with issues involving our family ranch in Greeno just a few days after he went to work as the MSU extension agent for Missoula County. I tried my level best to stump him over the decades that followed, but he always had a response in the form of a phone call or a pamphlet or maybe a boots on the ground visit. I don't care if it had to do with budgets or bovines, noxious weeds, or pesky rodents. He would just pile on the information until I'd have to plead enough. I was always greeted with an open door to Jerry's office, and after navigating my way around the piles and papers and reports strewn across the floor and around his desk, We would chat for a few minutes about our personal lives until we'd arrive at my latest concern. And there were lots of concerns over the many years of his tenure, and never once did he refuse to a request for help. I thought I had flummoxed him when we were trying to figure a way out about how to protect an underground power line going to a stock well from having rodents gnaw through it. We have been told to put it inside a tough plastic pipe, but one that was big enough around to be beyond the ability of the little critters to get their front incisors around. Jerry didn't hesitate in coming up with a response. 1.5 inch diameter would suffice. Now, where did he ever find that measurement? No doubt in some obscure brochure hidden away in one of those piles around his desk. And then there was a time Louis Vero and I made a trip with Jerry all the way to Washington, D.C. in an effort to get a member of the Montana congressional delegation to support essential funding for one of our local projects. In order to save a little money, we stayed overnight in a rather rough part of the city, and that night there were gunshots and a woman's scream coming up from the street below. I had to wrestle with Louis to keep him from going to the rescue. Having survived the night, we caught a ride in a taxi cab the next morning to meet with our Montana representative. We were running a little late, and Jerry, who knew exactly where to go, realized that we were headed the wrong direction on one of those busy highways going through the city. In his ever diplomatic fashion, he began to persuade the driver, who barely spoke any English, that we would have to turn around. The driver wasn't convinced and began to argue, but in a strange accent that I couldn't understand. Jerry kept talking in his gentle tone, never abrupt or rude in any way, but ever persistent, and all of a sudden we did a U-turn right in the middle of multiple lanes of traffic. It was an alarming maneuver, and all done with no signal, lights, or hand waving being used, but somehow we all survived. And once at the end of a group presentation on noxious weed control, Jerry handed me a quart cardboard container containing I don't know how many hundreds of very active insects he wanted me to turn loose on a patch of leafy spurge or knapweed or some such horror that I'd been complaining about. I took the container out to the car, and my wife asked me what was in it. I pried open the lid to show her, and immediately the bugs were all over my hand, headed for friendlier country. It was a nip and tuck for a while whether I was going to have to walk home. Those insects were dumped in a hurry when we got back to the ranch. I can't imagine how many meetings Jerry must have attended over the 50+ years of his role at the MSU Extension Office. I'm sure for every one that I attended, he must have gone to hundreds. Always casual and pleasant under the most strenuous of circumstances, I never saw him ruffled by the occasional confrontations that took place among the participants. How he managed to keep his cool, I will never understand, but he did. Jerry mentioned from time to time that if we gave him too bad a time and things got rough enough, he would ask for a transfer to Alzada, Montana and take up golf. Is there actually a golf course in Alzada, Montana? Fortunately for all of us who depended upon his endless knowledge and strong commitment over so many decades, he never made the move. And anyway, if he really wants to play golf, now that he's retired, he can do it right here in Missoula. Not that I think that he ever will. Lan Lindberg. Commissioner Strohmeyer, we should read a resolution.
Okay, we should probably unveil the resolution that we've all been weighing in on here. And I should say, just to follow up on what Emily Brock said earlier, this does comply with Missoula policy for naming things. So we are good. This is resolution number 2022-117, a resolution naming building number 42 at the Missoula County Fairgrounds, the Gerald W. Marks Exploration Center and Rocky Mountain Gardens. Whereas Gerald W. Jerry Marks grew up on a farm near Townsend, Montana, and whereas he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Production, Agriculture Science from Montana State University and studied Public Administration at the University of Montana. And whereas he started his career as the Agriculture Extension Agent serving Missoula County in 1969. And whereas Jerry is known for developing programs and bringing people together to work through complex issues. And whereas he created numerous positions vital to agriculture, horticulture, and community development, thanks to his belief in the power of individuals and organizations working together to create change. And whereas he coined this approach, the co-learning model, to describe his belief that when people are actively involved in the process to develop and market a program, It creates synergy to implement impactful change. And whereas Jerry found his niche in helping the people of Missoula County turn their ideas into action and make change happen, and whereas in the first 5 years of Jerry's career, he helped build capacity to reach more people and broaden the impacts of the 4-H, forestry, and horticulture programs in the county, and whereas his work to increase the number of 4-H committees and efforts to market the program resulted in a 30% increase in 4-H member enrollment over 5 years. And whereas Jerry worked with forestry industry leaders to establish the Extension Service Forestry Program in 1983, which he accomplished through many meetings and by successfully competing for federal renewable resource funding to establish an MSU presence on the U of M campus. And whereas awareness of the Forest Stewardship Program inspired the Missoula City Council to create an urban forestry program to improve the urban forest. And whereas he organized the first Montana Master Gardener Program in 1974 in response to interest in locally grown foods. And whereas over the next 40 years, Jerry worked with the Missoula community to establish community and school gardens and with growers to market their produce. And whereas due to widespread noxious weed infestations, the county commissioners in 1985 asked Jerry to develop an effective county weed control program. And whereas Jerry worked to successfully combine the extension and weed districts to establish a cohesive education model for weed management and agricultural practices, as well as a plant clinic to identify pest problems and implement long-term sustainable methods of pest management. And whereas Jerry's leadership in improving the science-based techniques of noxious weed management resulted in a biological weed control program for Montana land managers and increased knowledge of grazing systems and revegetation methods. And whereas Jerry's colleagues have recognized him with several awards over his career, including the Distinguished Service Award from the National Association of County Agricultural Agents, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Montana Weed Control Association, and the Fire Award from the Montana Association of County Agricultural Agents. And whereas Jerry also was inducted into the National Association of County Agricultural Agents Hall of Fame. I did not know such a thing existed. For his leadership and commitment and for excellence in serving as extension educator during his distinguished career and for outstanding humanitarian efforts beyond the normal call of duty. And whereas Jerry attended an extension conference in Casper, Wyoming in the mid-1990s, where he experienced an extension office with classrooms, learning laboratories, a teaching kitchen, and auditorium. And whereas Jerry wanted a similar learning environment for Missoula and surrounding areas and has worked for years to develop an educational center in Missoula County. And whereas more than 25 years later, the Missoula County Learning Center is now under construction. And whereas the center will include 2.5 acres of education gardens, a master gardener lab, outdoor classroom, demonstration kitchen, conference rooms, butterfly house, and an insectarium, as well as office space for the Extension Office, Weed District, and Missoula Conservation District. And whereas throughout his career, Jerry has strived to share the excitement of science and exploration of new worlds, and whereas generations to come will continue to learn and explore in this new facility, and whereas Jerry Marks, County Extension Agent Extraordinaire, said, "Do not fear the headwinds, for they will make your program stronger," and he continues to live by that motto. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Missoula County Commission recognizes the vision, leadership, collaboration, and dedication of Gerald W. Marks to the community and residents of Missoula County and honor his 53 years of public service. And be it further resolved that the Missoula County Commission, on behalf of the residents of Missoula County and beyond, do hereby name Missoula County Fairgrounds Building Number 42, the Gerald W. Marks Exploration Center and Rocky Mountain Gardens, in honor and appreciation of his many years of leadership, adopted this 8th day of December, 2022. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
And before we do that, should we vote on this? Oh, I totally forgot. I would move that we adopt this resolution.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Bryce, you have some details about 4 o'clock this afternoon? Oh, come on up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Vero. So following the public meeting, there will be a tour and a press tour of the facility, and then we'll have a small reception at Floriculture at the fairgrounds from 4:30 to 7. So please join us and congratulating Jerry on this new honor.
Fantastic. Thank you. And here we have, yes, we should go present this.
Jerry, come on up. Forget what looks like. Pretty like won't forget what looks. Yeah.
I'm glad we could surprise you.
You did.
Well done, Trey.
Yes. Congratulations. Yeah.
I don't know where.
Gary, turn this way a little bit so we can.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So many faces I recognize. Yes.
I'm gonna pass this to Bryce.
Oh, we got it. Yeah.
Well, then he, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Andy's just a nice guy.
Thank you, everyone. We have a few more hearings. So Chris Lounsbury with a resolution of intent.
And you don't have to leave if you don't want. There's good stuff coming.
Oh, well, we'll wait for a bit, Chris, while while we transition. Okay. Okay, we have actually oh yes, Andy, can you grab that door, please? Oh, or Emmy. Oh, yep, never mind, he got it. Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, Chris Lounsbury.
Thank you, Commissioner. So Chris Lounsbury, Chief Administrative Officer for the county. Today you have before you the final public hearing and resolution of intent to create a special district for the transfer of the Missoula County Federal, or sorry, not the Missoula County, the Missoula Federal Building to the co-ownership of Missoula County and City. So just a little background and history on this project. First of all, I want to give a shout out to John Adams for the wonderful graphic timeline. That is not something that I could create, but just as a reminder, the Forest Service moved out of the downtown federal building in approximately 2015. And since that process was completed in their transfer over to the Historical Museum in the Fort area, that building has largely sat vacant. During that time, the federal government has determined that that is a surplus building, and as part of that process, federal agencies as well as local housing providers were given an opportunity to evaluate the building, whether it might be suitable for their needs, and in both cases, those results came back negative. And so Missoula County and City have the opportunity to acquire the building at no cost for governmental office purposes, and that's where we are headed towards today with a potential transfer of the building in early 2023. So over the last 2 years, Missoula County and City have worked collaboratively with our partners at A&E to go through due diligence phase and determine whether the existing office space at the federal building could be repurposed for local government offices. And that due diligence phase, when it completed, resulted in an affirmative answer that that space could be effectively utilized with some rehabilitation for office space and present the city and county with some unique opportunities. So just again, continuing a little bit with the acquisition process, the city and county will acquire the building. The alternative, unfortunately, for it would be that the GSA would put the building out for auction, and there is the possibility of losing historically historically designated landmark in Missoula County if that were to happen, as one of the outcomes could be the demolishing of the building. So the model that we're pursuing is very similar to what you see in other communities that have had the opportunity to benefit from this federal program, and that is the co-location of key public services in a joint ownership model. One great example we have here in the state of Montana is in Lewis and Clark. If folks have seen that federal building, it was converted to joint office space for the city and county. So there are quite a few potential departments, as you can see, that might be co-located in this to provide convenient services for the public of at large. Some of the primary ones for Missoula County, as well as the city, are currently utilizing rented space throughout the downtown and other communities. And so it will give us an opportunity to consolidate some of those services, give the public kind of a one-stop shop where they might be able to locate all development services, might be able to interact with all of the elected officials, be they city or county, and give us opportunities that we currently don't have in our kind of broken up campus situation that Missoula County operates under. Sorry, hang on. Slide advancement. There we go. So just as a reminder, the federal building is approximately 120,000 square feet. So it's a very large building, 3 above ground floors and a daylit basement, all of which can be used for potentially for office space. It is a nationally registered historic place that occurred in 1979. Will continue to house the current U.S. Postal Service, at least for the short term, and a few federal agencies that are in the process of transitioning out of the space, but their space is not quite completed with its remodeling. So we'll have a period of time before we're able to move into the building while those tenants are still in place. So why a special district? There really is not a good mechanism in place in Montana that allows for the conveyance of a federal building to multiple entities. And so in working with the GSA and with the city of Missoula, as well as our bond council, it was determined that a special district created jointly by the city and county would be the most effective mechanism to create one entity that would hold the title to the federal building. And so that's the process that's been proposed and that you've had one public hearing on already, and today are having your second and final public hearing on the creation of. This allows us to create a very transparent annual budgeting process as we look at remodeling as well as the operation of the center, because the special district will have a unique contained budget that folks can look at, giving good transparency there. It also allows us to determine how to allocate the space based on proportional usage. Right now, that's estimated to be approximately 50% the county and 50% the city, but those numbers may shift over time as we work with our partners across the way. And it does, in the interlocal agreement that we've created, allow for us or the city to be able to withdraw from the special district should that be needed at some point in the future, while making sure that the building would continue to be preserved and the investments that were put into it would not be lost. So there have been a lot of questions around what kinds of renovations might be necessary for the federal building as it transfers into local ownership. Before you are some of the work from our partners at A&E Architects. They have had the opportunity to go through and evaluate the building. We know that there are certain key features of the building that will need to be maintained as part of the historic preservation, but also there is a real need to upgrade a fair amount of the interior space to be able to address current needs. And so when we look at that, that includes things like replacement of the roof, but that presents an opportunity for us to allow for the potential placement of a I'm going to say that wrong, photovoltaic array, also known as solar panels, to allow us to have the opportunity to reduce the carbon footprint of the building as well. There are some structural issues that will need to be addressed. As you can imagine, a building that was built in 3 stages beginning in 1903 might need some updating to its structural components, and that is the case with this building as well. It will also give us the ability to make some good use of that interior space to create a welcoming public lobby and reception area for folks to help them be able to locate services that both the city and county will offer in there. We'll make sure, of course, that the building comes up to applicable standards for the ADA so that it's accessible to all of our residents. And then it will give us an opportunity, of course, to restore some of the historic features that are in the building that are currently hidden by some of the updates that have happened over the years. So the decision before you today is to hear public comment during this public meeting and hearing, and then determine whether you would like to approve a resolution creating the Missoula Local Government Building Special District. Sorry, that is a mouthful. The Missoula Local Government Building Special District, which will house that. The city has had their preliminary hearing on this. The city has a two-step process. They had that this last Monday, and following the following Monday, December 12th, they will have their final vote on that. And at that point, if you approve it today and the city approves on the 12th, that resolution will go to the Secretary of State. And then after 10 days, the district will be formally created. So right at the end of the year, which times in nicely with the potential transfer of the federal building in the early January timeframe. And so with that, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, on our packet, it has third and final public hearing. Is that
My apologies. It is the third hearing.
okay?
My apologies.
Thanks. Well, is there any public comment on this resolution? Doesn't look like there's any in the room. And Violet, nothing for you. Questions, comments?
No, I'm ready to make a motion. Okay. I would move that we adopt the resolution of intent to create the Missoula Local Government Building Special District.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks so much for your work on this, everyone.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, commissioners, and just want to give a shout out where it's due. Without John Adams and Mel Fisher from our office shepherding this project along, we would not be where we are today. So a great deal of thanks goes to both
Mel
of those
Fisher in the
individuals.
corner back there.
And yeah, I guess we should say, someone should say something about this insofar as this is a big deal for local government. It preserves a historic structure in the heart of our community. It provides an opportunity to co-locate and bring together spaces, as Chris had mentioned earlier, that are currently dispersed across the city, and I think will really be I think it'll be a crown jewel for local government in the heart of our community. So thanks to everyone who helped with this.
Oh, there's a question. Come on. Come on up to the mic, Sharon.
Hi, my name's Sharon Sweeney. I live out in the 9 Mile, and as a federal retiree, I think this is a wonderful idea. It pains me to see that building just sit there like that. And as a member of the public, you know, it would be so much easier to have all of our various city and county offices in one spot, or more or less one spot anyway, as opposed to scattered throughout the city right now. So I think it's a great idea. I'm fully supportive, and it seems like it's a bargain price, you know, and it's a good thing. I'm glad you guys have been working on it, and we didn't just let this building get sold off via GSA, which is their want to do that. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's been moved and seconded. Did we second this? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. Dave Larkin with an amendment.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Dave Larkin. I'm the building official from Missoula County. A couple of months ago, we approved a resolution to increase permit fees and a couple of other clarifications. And in the process of starting to apply this resolution, we discovered that we had a compounding error, and we were going to be making a lot of money, and that's not what it's all about here at the building department. So we reviewed our paperwork, our resolution, and in front of you is a more accurate resolution that doesn't include the compounding error. We've also discovered that we don't need to meet the state plan review fee code fee, which is 35%, and we can survive on 30%. So we're reducing the the compounding error, we're also reducing the plan review fee. In addition to that, we want the commissioners to adopt tiny houses appendix to the International Residential Code, so that these small houses that we are getting, we have the ability to get people into small houses without any difficulty as far as, or less difficulty as far as the code goes. In addition to that, we also want to adopt the straw bale construction, which is a very efficient way of building, very highly energy efficient. And the code has recently adopted some changes that I think make straw bale construction a real possibility. Straw bale construction is essentially a timber frame, and the spaces in between are filled literally with straw, and then covered with stucco on both sides. The last thing that we're asking you to do is include a 200 square foot exemption, which exists in our current ordinances. And it's, we're finding ourselves with some problems where people are taking the exemption, putting up a 200 square foot shed, and then they're converting it to office space or some sort of inhabitable space. And that was never the intent of the original exemption that Missoula County adopted. It was supposed to be for storage uses. And so we've asked you to also adopt our detailed definition for sheds. And that's all I have for today.
Thanks, Dave. Any discussion? Don't see any in the room here, Dave.
Okay, I'd like to ask that you move for approval.
Thank you. Strohmeyer.
Okay, if no one has any comment, I would move that we approve the amendment to Resolution 2022-070 Code Enforcement to include code clarification and fee reduction to keep in line with the original addendum.
Oh, and just to clarify, maybe you already said this, Dave, but no one has been charged, correct? This was
No, no one's been charged the incorrect fee.
great. Thank you. Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I need to take a bio break real quick before we get on to petition to Bitterroot Road, which we're all here for. So 3 minutes, is that okay? Thanks. Okay, welcome back, everyone. And these are set as two different items, and is that how we should approach these?
You hear them both at the same time. Just, introduce.
Interchangeably?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just, they're,
Okay. So petition to abandon, petition to abandon Bitterroot Road right-of-way and a petition to alter Bitterroot Road right-of-way. And it's a Steve Niday show.
Yes, Commissioners, Steve Niday, County Surveyor's Office. Pretty much everything that needs to be said has been said by most parties, but I will recap the sites that we visited to basically analyze any site that could potentially be considered substantially the same public access as the petitions that are under consideration. So we meaning several of us, took a field trip, and if you look at the screen, you'll see at the top of the screen, you see Old Bitterroot Road. That is the site that we first visited on our most recent trip on October 25th. We took a look at that and drove to the end of where we could drive, walked down to the river, and we then drove to Lolo and visited the Riverside Park. I'll zoom in on that one a little bit. There's a cul-de-sac parking area here and a walking trail that takes us down to the river. On a previous trip, we also visited a potentially substantially the same site access at Ranchette Park. And that access does provide vehicular access to the river. The Riverside Park does not provide vehicular access to the river. The old Bitterroot Road essentially does. There's a short walk involved. So those are the sites we visited. We did swing by the weigh station. There was some comments that that could be considered as an alternate access site. MRL's property for their tracks precludes a public access, but we did take a look anyway. The purple line is the alignment of the petitioner's request to alter the existing right-of-way. The existing right-of-way is shown as the orange line. That's about all I have for you. I think I'll let John take it from there.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I know we've plowed this ground before, but because this is, in all likelihood, the last hearing on these petitions, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the law again, for everybody's benefit. The overarching legal principle that I begin with when we talk about county roads is in Title 7, Chapter 14, and it's Section 2102. And this is where the legislature has given a local governing body such as yourselves discretion to do whatever may be necessary for the best interests of the county roads. And the statute uses that phrase, county roads. And I know you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Hart. We've all been down there. There's no road. But for purposes of this overarching legal principle and the discretion that you've been given, county roads is synonymous with a public right-of-way easement, which of course every county road is then constructed within that public right-of-way easement, which you have discretion over under that statute. So the first petition that was filed with Missoula County was a petition to alter, and Steve has it, graphically illustrated up there. It's altering the orange road to what's purple. The thing that I want you to be aware of if you grant that petition is that the statute would require Missoula County to pay the landowners any damages that they incur because of that alteration. Now, candidly, my position as your legal advisor is that, well, we would just be moving the right of way from one place to another. There aren't any damages that would be incurred. It would be a wash, but nonetheless, there would still be an opportunity for the affected landowners to take a position that is not what my position would be. And there may then be a judicial process for that. I just want you to be aware of that. I don't think I've talked about that in prior meetings. And then the second
Sorry, John.
petition, go ahead.
I'm looking at this, the orange line, and I thought that it was going to, the proposal was to alter it so it follows.
Follows the purple.
Yes, but follows, what am I trying to say? The alteration doesn't look complete. Still goes.
You could point on it.
Yeah, the reason I ended the purple on the northerly extent where I did is because there is existing dedicated right-of-way from Lower Miller Creek Road to the end of that purple line.
So
Let me figure that out.
Steve, in light of that, so what segment of the Bitterroot Road is being petitioned to be altered?
The entire orange section, which is the existing right-of-way,
Okay,
would be altered over to the purple segment.
okay. So even the section that kind of bows to the northwest there and does not follow the current
Bitterroot Road.
here too.
Yes, that would be altered also.
Okay, thank you.
So the second petition, of course, that was presented to Missoula County was a petition to simply abandon the old, or the Bitterroot Wagon Road, petitioned in 1867. And I think that petition would abandon the entire length of what's shown in orange on the screen. And of course, what you need to be able to find if you want to abandon that road is that well, let me put it this way. You can't abandon that road unless there's another county road or right-of-way that provides legal access that is substantially the same. And let me just read the statute. I should quit trying to paraphrase it. You may not abandon a county road or right-of-way used to provide existing legal access to public land or waters unless another public road or right-of-way provides substantially the same access. So because the 1867 Bitterroot Wagon Road today provides legal access to not only the Blackfoot or the Bitterroot River, it also provides legal access to a small FWP parcel of property. You may not abandon that right away unless you find that there is substantially the same access at some other place, whereby the public can legally access the river and land at issue. And I'm going to quit talking, fortunately. The last thing I want you to just be aware of is that a split decision by you, in other words, if one of you moves to grant one of the petitions and the other one is not in favor of that, that split decision would result in a denial of that particular petition. Does that make sense?
We have to agree.
You have to agree. That's a great way to put it. You have to agree. You
And
have
then
to,
we
you have to
also-
agree, otherwise the petition is deemed denied.
Okay, and then we also have the choice to deny both petitions.
That is also a choice.
And-
You can deny both petitions. You can grant both petitions. You can deny both petitions, but a split decision on granting the petition is the same as denying it. You have to both agree to grant the petition.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Right. We
In- in my-
we
in
cannot
my-
adopt both petitions, though.
You can't adopt
There we
both
go.
petitions. That would that'd be a problem. Yeah, in my effort to sort of clarify things, I probably haven't succeeded. Those are the legal issues that I wanted you to be aware of and to be clear to the public. And otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the legal issues. I was on some of the field trips. I was on all the field trips. I was at least one of the viewings, and I'm happy to try to help you.
Okay, so as part of process here, we want to take public comment and then we'll close it. And then Strohmeyer and I will struggle.
That's exactly what you should do, is
Okay.
open both petitions up to public comment.
Thank you. Okay, so would anyone like to speak to either of these petitions? And recognize that it is 3:12. We'll try to keep our comments to 3 minutes, and we have some hourglasses here to help folks. Yeah, it doesn't, there we go.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Tom Bergenon. I'm an attorney who represents one of the nearby landowners and is affected by these two petitions. So I had sort of one short comment about each of the two in the order that John discussed them. On the petition to alter, John mentioned that in his opinion, there wasn't any effect to the valuation of the properties. I think that in many I'll just say in many types of appraisals of these properties, an appraiser would be likely to find a substantial difference in the value of the property. For instance, the Meads property or the Oxbow property, because they'd be looking at it in terms of the difference between a property that was appraised without having public access through it, because the public didn't have any practical means of utilizing that access. And it didn't appear, I don't believe it appeared as an exception on title, versus having an actual legal vindicated access across the property. So I think there's a decent chance that each of them might be affected to the tune of 6 digits or 7 digits. That's just an estimate. As to the second petition to abandon the road, I'm in favor of the commissioners granting the second petition and abandoning the road. And I think that there are substantially similar access points that access both the Bitterroot River and the FWP parcel. Among the various places that were visited by the commissioners and by other folks here, all of the ones that Steve Nide mentioned, I think qualify as substantially the same access, probably most particularly the one at Old Bitterroot Road, which is just very similarly situated in terms of the quality of the roadway that gets you there and similarity of the access. And the FWP site was intended by FWP, I should say, to be accessed from the water. And there is substantial access to that site from the water. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Commissioner, let me just address Tom's first point. I wasn't trying to suggest that there wouldn't be a difference in the value of the property where the property has no right-of-way at all versus the property with a designated right-of-way. Undoubtedly, there would be a difference in the appraised value there. The point I was trying to make was that at least the position that I would take on behalf of Missoula County, if the right-of-way was altered from one spot to the other, as was illustrated on the Google Earth map, my position would be that that doesn't cause any additional diminution in the value of the property. You're just simply moving a right-of-way from one part of the property to the other. But I have no doubt that, and that's why I wanted to raise this as an issue, is I have no doubt that the affected property owners would have a different opinion than me.
Thank you.
My name is Dave Mead. I definitely have a different opinion with John. The difference being, one is a road that's in place and people would be immediately driving down with vehicles and congregating at the end of our property at the river. The other one, the historical GLO road, is a walk-in at best, unless somebody is willing to invest a lot of money to put a road in there for approximately a mile or so. There wouldn't be any driving at the present time. So just that in itself, even though they both are an access, is a huge difference. One, you end up with a parking lot looking like Buckhouse Bridge on 4th of July. And the other one, you may have a few people walking in to fish. Big difference. And as far as property value goes, I'm sure it would be huge. Just my opinion on that.
Thanks, Dave.
Hello, Commissioners. Bart Morris, Oxbow Cattle Company. I do have a different opinion than John as well, just in the matter that we've been living with the existing quote unquote easement for 100 years here. And would look very different than if a public permanent easement was to go right in front of our blue shop. I mean, it would change I think the view of the way our business would look, and every aspect of it would change substantially. Not to argue what John was saying, but the whole piece of property would be different for us, and we conveyed that earlier. The other thing is, and you guys know I'm in for abandonment of this, and the hope I have here is that you take don't get lost in the legality of things. I know you have to follow the legality of the process, and I want that as well. But there's so much more to this than just a few legal terms, and that it affects my future as well as the future of that land down there, way beyond me. And I guess you guys being the future tellers of Missoula County, you put that as part of your thought process and how you decide this as well. So I hope that makes sense, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks, Bart. Would anyone else like to speak? And Sophie Moise? We're not seeing anyone. And how about on the phone or online? Larry. I'm assuming this is Larry Evans. Oh, Larry, you're muted.
Larry, you'll have to unmute on your computer so we can hear you.
He could also call. Is that correct?
Yeah, Larry, there's call-in information on the agenda as well. So if you wanted to call in on a phone, if you're not able to unmute on your computer, you could do that as well.
You want to give him the phone number? Might be.
I can also say the phone number, the call-in information really quickly here. Just one moment. So the phone number to call is 406-272-4824. And then the conference ID is 413-793-704#.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, I just have a few comments to make. First of all the titles and the properties in the area make note of the existence of that right of way. So any effect on value, if not stated as a consideration, should be implied by the fact that all titles or deeds make reference to that right of way, and all are subject to those considerations. They specifically call out the roads on the GLO. Secondly, there's the deed to the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks parcel is between, is a transaction between the public and a state agency, not a local agency. And I'm a little concerned or curious as to how any actions that would affect a deed to which the local government has no party can be made legally. And one last thing I'd like to address is it was mentioned that by allowing this petition to be passed, that we're gonna have a parking lot down by the river, and that's substantially different than somebody who just wants to walk in and fish. Well, up to this point, I don't see that anybody is able to walk in and fish, because frankly, that's all I would use it for. Not speaking for other people, but this is an issue about property rights, and it's not an issue about what's nice and what isn't. And I'll get off the phone now, because I think I pointed out the things that I'm concerned with. Beyond that, I know the decision is up to you, and you'll give it your best effort to be fair and honest in this whole process. And so with that, I will say thank you for your time and your efforts, and I will hang up.
Oh, Larry, don't hang up. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
I wasn't sure if I was following your second to last comment or question. Can you repeat that question again around different public agencies exchanging property? Can you ask that question again?
Yes, if you look at the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks deed, it says that it calls out in the deed, and that deed is part of a sale, a transaction between the public and FWP, which is a state agency. As a title or deed between the state and the people, I don't see how decisions can be made that affect what is specifically stated in that deed. And in that deed, it says that access to that property, to that parcel, is via the old Bitterroot Road. It's deeded. It says it. That's where it is. So if it were to be abandoned, if the right of access or right of way was abandoned, then doesn't that substantially change the terms of the title, of the deed to that property? That deed is on record, and in fact, I've submitted a copy. You can see right in it that is a deeded access, and that it's not between the people and the city or the county, it's between the people and the state. And so I think that needs to be a consideration in whatever decision is being made. To me, it's tantamount to me saying, well, we're gonna block off your driveway because I agree with some guy next door that it's in our best interest if we do that, and it has nothing to do. You're not allowed any say in the decision. That's a really weak argument, but the point is, unless you're party to the original transaction, I don't see how you can make adjustments impacting that contract, for lack of a better term.
Thank you.
Was that
Okay,
clear?
I think I follow you now, and I'm gonna ask John Hart here. Can you address that concern between the original parties, Larry's comment of that was between Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and between the state and the people meaning the general public, not the county, and I'm a little confused there.
Well, I'm confused too, to be honest with you, Commissioner. I pulled up the deed from Roy Proct to
Fish, Wildlife, and Parks.
To Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. We talked about this, I think, at the last public meeting. That transaction, and I'm looking at the deed for the small triangle of land that the Bitterroot Wagon Road goes to.
4A-6.
Probably. Let's see if that's and that's a deed from 1996, tract. Yeah, 4A-6, I believe, if my eyesight is correct.
I'm looking at it.
And I don't know that that deed references any place in it the 1867 petitioned Bitterroot Wagon Road that's at issue here in this meeting. I could be mistaken.
Here, well, it does reference.
It exists an existing 60-foot wide public road easement. Yeah, and I don't.
Yes, this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my question, John, is that even germane? We have within our authority to do what it is that we're contemplating here, whether or not it occurs in the documents that we're looking at.
Well, I wasn't aware of this before, and I apologize. I didn't read Larry's specific comment, nor did I look at the language in the deed that he submitted. But the language from that deed that he submitted, he has highlighted, says grantor, and grantor is Roy Proct, represents that access is provided by, quote, an existing 60-foot wide public road easement over the existing, and then it goes on to have known as Bitterroot Trail, as shown on Certificate of Survey 4522. I'm not looking at that, but it sounds like this deed does reference the wagon road at issue here, but that was simply a representation by the grantor to FWP saying, look, there's legal access to this parcel if you need it, such that I'm not selling you a piece of property that you otherwise can't get to. And there isn't, in my opinion, that would not preclude you from granting or granting the petition to abandon that's in front of you today. I don't think that transaction that was independent of Missoula County, independent of your jurisdiction over this particular right-of-way, would preclude you then from abandoning this right-of-way.
Okay.
In other words, another point is FWP took title to this property knowing that it didn't have jurisdiction over this right-of-way, that it was a county public right-of-way, and that you had jurisdiction under Title VII over it, plus and also that you also had the ability to abandon the road if that was seen fit. And and FWP has been a part of this process. And if they had a position that they wanted to take in terms of the legal access to this property, they had every right to do that, and they have not done that to this point.
Okay, thank you. Does that help clarify, Larry, your question?
Yeah. to some
Or one
degree.
part of your question, it's not.
I'm sorry?
Yes, it was a part of your question on the exchange of properties between the two agencies and the county's jurisdiction.
Right.
Okay. So you feel good about, I'm pointing to Strohmeyer here. You feel.
Oh, I feel indifferent insofar as it's within our authority to do either of the actions that are requested of us today, regardless of what was on the deed.
Okay, thanks. Is there any more comment online or on the phone?
Dave Mead again.
Okay, do we have,
Oh, is it
sorry,
somebody
Dave,
else?
can we grab Ryan Salisbury here real quick?
Go ahead.
Ryan,
Hi, Ryan Salisbury, 6405 Haugen Drive. This has been brought up before, but I just wanted to point it out because, again, in regards to, it's my opinion that in 2004, this right-of-way in question was relocated to Lower Miller Creek Road in sections 11 and section 14. I've got the language in here in front of you. I won't bore you with the details, but it says in general, roads surveyed by Baker in 1870, as noted as Bitterroot Road and Bitterroot High Water Road, are to be relocated to Lower Miller Creek. So I do believe that maybe there's a possibility there's a section of it in section 15 that still exists. But in my opinion, there's a gap in there, and the right thing to do is to abandon this questionable section of road. Thank you.
thanks, Ryan.
Dave Mead again. I would agree with Ryan. Section 14, it was already abandoned and stated in the the writing very clearly, but we've gone over this before. I just wanted to make a quick comment on what Larry said about all the deeds expressly showing that they were subject to GLO roads. I talked with Steve about this, and I looked specifically at our deed. Our deed's a hybrid deed between two subdivisions, the Q-Tip Trust and the Hunter's Ridge LLC, which is up on the hill. So it's basically the 80 acres in the bottom from like that large power line that goes across the valley to the south, including down towards where the parking would be and all that, is part of the Hunter's Ridge LLC subdivision. Nowhere in that at all does it mention being subject to GLO roads. Not one word relating to it. So I don't know where Larry got his information, but he didn't read our deed very carefully. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Any further comment in Sophie Moise?
Yeah, before we wrap things up here, I feel it my responsibility as one of the designated road viewers / investigators, since neither of our reports provided a recommendation to the board because we really couldn't come to any agreement at that early stage. I feel it's important that I express my opinion that I am in support of the alteration petition and not the abandonment petition. Just wanted to be on the record with that.
Thanks, Steve. Any further discussion? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Strohmeyer and I are going to leg wrestle.
Okay, first off, I guess a question for John. Should we deal with one of these at a time? So for instance, since the alteration petition was what came before us first, I guess we could take it either way, but is there any procedural benefit from disposing of, or at least, discussing one of these and dealing with it and voting on it prior to moving on to the next?
I think that makes a lot of sense. That will create the cleanest record. And I do, since the petition to alter was filed first, it does make sense to take that up first.
Okay, let's begin there. So first off, thanks everyone here in Sophie Moise and on the line for hanging with this for many, many months. This has been the longest petition process for abandonment or alteration of a right-of-way that I've ever been a part of, and probably rightfully so. It's a big deal what we're talking about here. And I thank everyone for joining us out on the field trips, for testifying over many meetings, and for offering really good substantive comment on this. What we got were not comment letters on a postcard that says just say no. I mean, these were in-depth comment letters that articulated good reasons one way or the other for the positions that were argued for. So just to recap what I was hearing through some of the public comment, we heard arguments both opposed to the alteration and supportive of abandonment of the right-of-way. We heard arguments in favor of the alteration and opposed to abandonment. They fall into a number of different pretty discrete categories. There were natural resource concerns. So for instance, what would vehicular access mean to the river and fish, wildlife, and park parcels that are currently only accessible by boat or by foot or by fording the river if one feels so inclined? And we have seen on one of our field trips, we saw folks fording the river to get to one of these FWP parcels to bow hunt. Impacts or concerns about impacts on agricultural operations, concerns about impacts to existing conservation easements on adjoining properties, and potential impacts to restoration efforts in Lower Miller Creek. There are recreational concerns related to what if we alter the right-of-way that would allow vehicular access, easy vehicular access to the River and Fish, Wildlife and Parks parcel, and what that means to both the land and also the recreational experience, which would be entirely different from what folks experience out there right now. There were arguments related to what constitutes substantially the same access. Some argued that no substantially the same access routes exist. Therefore, there's no justification for abandonment. There were those who, on the other side of the fence, would argue that access to the river can be obtained at a number of different locations and constitutes basically substantially the same access. Some argued that the road right-of-way no longer exists, and that indeed that the route is either no longer needed or never existed in the first place, or was never used in the first place. There, again, were arguments on both sides of the fence for a number of these issues, and those who were the petitioners for alteration, which is what we're talking about first, argued that alteration would actually mitigate impact to properties over which the right-of-way currently exists by relocating it to an existing road and making usable public access to Fish, Wildlife and Park property and the river. So specifically to alteration, the question before us and the petition before us, I would say that in the case that all things being equal, public sentiment and preference would be strong reasons to contemplate alteration, especially if there was no controversy involved. But that is not the case before us today. All things are clearly, at least in my judgment, not equal. This is a highly contentious and controversial petition that's before us, unlike many of the ones I've dealt with in the past, like I say, that have been quick and easy, and there's been little, if any, controversy. And also the identified impacts to agriculture, natural resources, existing conservation easements, and historic use of private property, particularly the agricultural lands that we're talking about, in my estimation, clearly bumped this into the category of all things are not equal here. And based on that, I would tend towards not seeing any compelling reason to alter the right-of-way, and I would be in favor of denying the petition.
The petition to
alter.
To alter. Okay, that was beautifully recapped. And I want to make a decision that follows the law, and demonstrates common sense, and is aligned with the spirit of previous intentions. And it drives me a little crazy that all these elements have to be at odds. Like, why is that? I mean, this is what makes government the butt of so many jokes. And my grandfather is rolling over in his grave, pointing and laughing at me. So, yeah, that's where I'm struggling. And right, the petition to alter, it makes sense. I mean, it's going right through someone's living room and through people's backyards. But the reality is, and I'm moving to the next position or petition to abandon. When we're talking about the access, I mean, I talked to, let's see here, Lee Bastian and Greg Tolson. So Lee Bastian was with Fish, Wildlife and Parks in 1996. He was the parks director, and it wasn't the intention of Fish, Wildlife and Parks when Fish, Wildlife and Parks received those properties. It wasn't the intention to have that access be overland. It was to have a unique and special recreational experience on that specific section of river. And so those conservation easements then happened after that. And so what do we do to honor that intention of that type of recreational experience on that particular stretch of the Bitterroot? So that's in my head and weighs heavily. And so I would ultimately be in agreement with you, Dave, to deny the petition to alter. And I'm in favor of the petition to abandon, but we're not there yet. But that's where I'm at for this particular one.
Okay, I would formally make the motion to deny the petition to alter.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abandonment.
We agreed on one.
We
Okay.
agreed on one. Halfway there. So, yeah, here are my thoughts on the issue of abandonment. So, as I was thinking about this over the past number of days, and what the heck substantially the same means. So, in my estimation, substantially the same access exists on a continuum. It's not binary either or, it's on a continuum, and it ranges from an alternate location or alignment of a right-of-way that is nearly physically identical to the one in question. So picture a right-of-way or road alignment 1 foot off of the existing one. That's pretty doggone close. And yeah, one would, I think, probably agree that it's self-evident that that's substantially the same access. So it ranges from that on one end of the spectrum that's proximate to an existing right-of-way to one farther removed, yet still providing access to the same feature that the right-of-way was accessing in a different location. So in the case at hand, I'd argue that there must be a compelling reason to abandon a right-of-way, even if substantially the same access can be provided by another alignment of a road or right-of-way. So let me put this another way. And I'm not one to quickly give up right-of-way, because one does not know the future entirely. And once it's abandoned, much like what I am concerned about in another part of my professional world, railroad right-of-ways, once it's gone, it's gone. You're never getting it back again. So you got to be careful about this. But putting this another way, all things being equal, again, using that principle, I'd be inclined to deny abandonment of a right-of-way in order to keep future options open. But that said, in the case at hand, all things are not equal yet again. Context is super important. The original right-of-way and road was established to provide access not to a specific parcel of land along the Bitterroot River, such as the Fish, Wildlife, and Park parcels that we've been talking about so much today. It was not established for that. The Bitterroot Road was not established for that. But it was a convenient place to cross the river en route to Skalkaho. That was the terminus of this. The southern end of the Bitterroot Valley was the terminus. So the purpose for establishing this right-of-way becomes somewhat moot upon establishment of the high water road, also back in the 1800s, and then the old Bitterroot Road that crossed the Bitterroot River via the bridge and the abutments that we saw when we were on our field trip. So we want to be as expansive as possible. Taking this expansively, one might argue that substantially the same access to Skalkaho and public lands and waters therein in the Bitterroot Valley exists today via Highway 93. Looked at more narrowly, I would, and this is the kicker here for me. Looked at more narrowly, I believe substantially the same access to the Bitterroot River. And I think it is the Bitterroot River we're talking about, not necessarily the smallish fish, wildlife, and park parcels that currently are at the edge of the eastern edge of this piece of the Bitterroot Road. But looked at more narrowly, I believe that substantially the same access to the Bitterroot River exists via the old Bitterroot Road, Ranchette Park, and Riverside Park. I don't think you have to have vehicular access in order to clear the bar of substantially the same. So based on all of that, and also based on the fact I see no likely scenario in the future where we would ever need a river crossing at this location to access Lolo or Highway 93. So that mitigates my concerns that we need to reserve this for some future bridge use. No, that is never, I can assure you, that is never happening. So I'm perfectly comfortable abandoning this section of the Bitterroot Road and would support the petition for abandonment.
So if we actually denied the petition to abandon,
then you end
Stay-
up with
stay
a
what?
right of way as it currently stands today, the status
then it
quo.
would be the status quo and nothing changes. And how does that make you feel?
If it was the situation where I saw some legitimate future use of this segment of public right of way, maybe it would be worth maintaining, but it seems like a little bit of an anachronism and it deviates so far from what this alignment of right of way was ever intended for in the first place that I'm inclined to abandon it just to clean up the record and avoid seeing ourselves back in the same position at some point in a few years.
And yeah, that's how I'm feeling because if we denied it, then it would be the status quo. Maybe that wouldn't be the end of the world. But this has kind of been at question since the Civil War, and I don't want to kick it. And it seems like it comes up every 25 years or so, some discussion about this area. And we've got so much comments, 30 some odd letters, 14 emails, and these letters weren't short. They're 20. Larry Evans put a lot of research into all his letters. They're 20, 30 pages. And so I feel like people deserve a definitive answer. Sorry. So yeah.
Yeah,
sorry, go
that
ahead.
I mean, no, that's exactly my sentiment. If I did see any reasonable potential future use for this right of way, relocated or not, I would be inclined to not let go of it. I don't see that being the case. If it really were the case that the one house through which the right of way currently passes is seeing people randomly walk in the front door and out the back door, creating those sorts of impacts or creating a bunch of other impacts on the land across which the right of way currently exists, then that might have been a stronger argument for relocation, but then again, maybe not. I think that would be probably a stronger argument for just abandoning the thing in the first place and being done with it. But you're right. If we deny the petition to abandon, we're at the status quo, and likely it's not the end of the world, but this seems like a good opportunity to clean up the record and say that the road served its purpose in the 1860s and early 1870s, and we have other ways to access the river now, and it's time to move on.
I can agree with that.
So I guess I will take a stab at this. I would move that we approve the petition to abandon Bitterroot Road right of way.
Second. Any further discussion? Steve and John, I just really appreciate your work and accessibility.
Yes, thank you.
Years working on this, so thank you.
Yeah, you bet, commissioners. It's been an interesting adventure. Did you just vote?
No,
Nope.
not yet.
Okay.
That was
Made the
I was
motion.
just commenting. I seconded his motion.
Further discussion right now.
Discussion.
And folks, 100 years hence, we'll read in the commissioners' records and journals this very discussion, and maybe even a little bit further in detail than what we had to cryptically wade through in 1860s and 70s.
Okay, all in
Oh,
favor?
it looks like.
No, I
Steve?
I appreciate your consideration. Obviously, you haven't taken this lightly, nor did I when I spent hundreds of hours literally researching and on the ground. And I think it was necessary. I think it was necessary. I could have spent another couple hundred hours, but once I get to a point where I've made a decision and I have formed an opinion, I feel like it's kind of a waste of time to continue to seek out little bits of information. So I don't feel like this was a waste of time, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.
So commissioners, just for the record, I think it'd be a good idea to memorialize the decision you make in a
I'm
resolution.
sorry. Thank you. Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and I'll put that on my to-do list. Steve and I'll draft up a resolution granting the petition to abandon, and we'll include some information that, coupled with the minutes of this meeting, will be enlightening to the public 150 years from now, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.